This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time for Avoid the Maze. Now, today's guest on Avoid the Maze comes from EMPKT. Well, it's a lot of letters, I know that, but they are a PR firm in New York, and I have to thank Beatrice for sending me some wonderful artists over the years. And today's artist is Jennifer Harper. And Jennifer, I have to tell you, I went out and I listened to your music, and I came back and reread your bio that Beatrice shared with me. And what I love so much about it is that your music really speaks to women, and so do you. So I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about your album, Soul Alive, and what got you to really devote your time, your energy, your talents to helping other women.
Such an important and beautiful question. Thank you. So, the first thing that occurred to me when you said that was that ever since I was a little girl, I just had this belief that if women could really be in their power, if women got along, if women supported each other, that we could do so much together for this world. And I just had a feeling that women in power would, if women were in power, that this world would be a peaceful place. I don't know where that belief came from. Could say other lifetimes. I don't know. But it was something that I always felt inside of me. And then coupled with being very, very influenced from a young age, I grew up in Washington, D.C., and being influenced by music being used for social change in the 70s. It was a very, very explosive time for music in general, but in particular where I grew up, I was exposed to all different kinds of music, and there was always a message. There was always a reason. And for me, the two went together. So it took me a long time to find my voice and what I really wanted to say. And along that journey were my own, the healing that I needed to do as a woman, the things I experienced that were unique to being a woman. And so when it came time to really express the voice that I wanted to express, it was really all about that healing journey and my beliefs, and certainly wanting to use music as a message to make a difference for empowerment. So that's kind of how it all came together.
It's interesting because I didn't realize when I was growing up that women weren't empowered. I grew up in the 50s and 60s, and I saw women that I wanted to relate to. They were, starting to, find themselves, and they were using music and they were using entertainment to get those messages across. And it was only within the last couple of years, especially doing this podcast, and I'm realizing that we really haven't had a voice, a loud voice, until recently. And we haven't given ourselves the permission to find ourselves and enjoy our purpose. And as I've read your bio, it sounds like once you found your purpose in your music, then it started to explode for you.
Yeah. And it's really about once I found my voice, I would say, because for as far as we've come, we have so much further to go. And I really do believe that there's a silencing of the voice, in a very large way. Some of it politically motivated in certain countries, right? Like it's very specific and not loud. And then in other cases, it's just a generational conditioning, and fear also. I think that what people refer to as the witch wounds, I think it's very real, that women were oppressed basically for being women, for
Right.
sharing their healing knowledge and wisdom. And that created a very deep conditioning and a fear of expressing ourselves, and also an inability to support one another too. That we kind of got pitted against each other purposefully to silence our voices, because together we're so powerful. So I feel like, yes, once I found my voice, a lot of things unlocked. And I really do feel it's so important for women to unlock their voices in whatever way, shape, or form it comes. It's okay. And I think it's, I know I have a daughter, and she's 20 now. And I think in the beginning, it can be kind of messy with our voices. We fumble, we
Yeah.
try it out. It's not quite right. It doesn't come out the way we want. But to really encourage women to continue to use their voices, especially the younger generation, to use their voices, however it comes out in the beginning, and our generation, our responsibility is for that guidance and that encouragement, and the wisdom, to impart the wisdom as much as we can. And it's really a joy to be at that stage of life, and of course, coupling it with my music, my art.
So, I remember growing up, I was told to be seen and not heard. But as I got older, my father kept pushing me to say what I needed to say. But he kept saying, be careful with your words, but say what you need to say. And I was still afraid to, but I didn't realize it at the time. It wasn't until many years later, when I sat down and started writing, I realized what he was saying, that make sure that your words are saying what you want to say, but be kind. Be kind to yourself. You don't have to, use language that's going to, blacken what you're saying. And I find today there are more women like you, like me, who are now coming, I'm going to even say, out of the closet to some respect, that if we don't use our words now, we're not going to have a chance. And
Yeah.
we want to pave the way for younger women as they come through. And also, as we're paving the way for women, it's also paving the way for men to learn how to understand us a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because for years we didn't speak.
Yes. And I think as we're discussing this, I'm just realizing that there's, the evolution of the voice, as you learn to express your voice. I mean, a very common evolution is in the beginning, it can come out, sort of adolescent angry, right? Rebellious, angry. And I think that if you look at the feminist movement in our country, that's how it began, which is actually, I mean, it's powerful and it's necessary, but it's also just a stage of evolution. It's not really the most effective, right? And it's not really where women's power lies,
Exactly.
So I think we're now at a turning point where, the wisdom can come through more, dialogue can come through more, quiet authority and it can come through more. And I do think there is a responsibility of our generation to really embrace that fully.
Exactly.
And set the example, and set us on a new trajectory. So my work feels very, very important to me. And, it feels more like mission than it does work. And it feels more like, what can I best do with my gifts? What can I best do with my voice? Everybody's different. Yeah. I have a song actually the most recent song that I released for International Women's Day, called I Am a Queen. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to that or not.
I listened to a number of them a couple days ago. And I do believe I listened to that. And my first reaction was, when I was growing up, using, trying to identify yourself as a queen, as a princess, that was not acceptable. In fact, my grandparents used to call me princess, not because they thought I was a princess, but I was their first granddaughter. And so to them, and my mother did not like the name. And because she kept telling me, you're going to be no better than anybody else. You're going to be a good person. That's it. So tell me why you wanted
that's
to.
So yes, it's so interesting, because I know my mother, not to equate you with the same generation as my mother, but she had that reaction as well when she heard I'm a queen. She was like, I don't like it. I'm a queen. And it was interesting because it's really that ability to embrace that softness, and because the lyrics are, surrendering, softening in my mastery. So that's the queendom that I'm talking about. And yes, we are, there was like a backlash, right? There was that, I'm not soft, I'm strong, I'm a girl, I'm strong, I can't, right? So to be able to embrace that soft side, and we are designed really to surrender and receive.
Sure.
And without understanding that power that we wield as women, we're really missing the point, And it's not the whole story, but it is a really, really important energy to understand and to embody. And especially because we're so conditioned at this point in time to, not to be quiet, and not to say to be seen but not heard, right? We're now conditioned to speak out and be strong and get out there and right, and be like a man or whatever. And it's not really serving us, and it's not really serving the world,
right?
Because that's not where our true power lies. We need to lead the way, show the way, embodied in that feminine energy, which is really a soft power, right? It's a softening, and it's the mastery of that. So that's what that song was about. And I was just playing with that energy, and it seemed just the right thing to declare I am a queen, because it feels so uncomfortable to be able to say partially.
Yes. Yep. I
Yeah.
understand.
And actually with that song, I'm now doing, I actually just launched a Kickstarter because I'm raising the funds to complete the album and create a vinyl, beautiful vinyl, but moreover, an empowering visual anthem for women's empowerment with this song, I Am a Queen. And I'm very excited about that project. And I'm actually collaborating with some organizations that work for girls' empowerment in Kenya, which is sort of a long story. And also looking to partner with other organizations that work towards empowering young women who have rising out of some traumatic situations, and putting together a beautiful video for that. So
Wonderful.
it's kind of a movement that I'm getting behind.
And you mentioned something that I'm hoping our listeners picked up on. because creating music today is not like it was 20, 30 years ago. You know, if you were creating music, you were hoping that somebody was going to pick you up, they were going to record it, they were going to do all the funding. But today, music is being funded a lot by Kickstarter programs. And I think it's really important for our listeners to understand if there's an artist out there like Jennifer that you believe in, you know, every penny counts. But I think it's important that we back the arts. And, you know, I had somebody who said to me the other day, "Oh, Karen, I back the arts. I go to these concerts and I'm spending $300-400 a ticket." And my comment was, and the artist gets a fraction of that because there's so many other hands in there. But when you can work directly with the artist, I think that is where we all can get some empowerment because we're helping you spread the word and we believe in your word. I also love the fact that your music is about empowerment. And I think, and it is a softer way of sharing it rather than you've just got to go out there and you got to, you know, raise hell. No, you don't. We can use our voice in a more feminine way. We don't have to sound like the men in the boardroom. Tell me what it's like to work with these organizations that are empowering young lives, because you and I didn't have that when we were growing up.
To work with organizations like that?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've always made an effort to connect with organizations that I believe in. And I mean, I've been a practicing Buddhist for 30 years, so I'm very involved in my Buddhist organization, and we have monthly discussion meetings, and it's really a person-to-person grassroots kind of a movement. So that I think has been very central to my life. And then I've done other things, partnering with different environmental organizations to do things to empower children and teach children, whether in my kids, you know, I have 3 grown kids now, but when they were young and in school, I would go in and I would use music and play and different things to teach them about the environment. And now this is really a new, it's it's not a new direction, but it's a new partnership for me because I took a trip. I've been involved in a charity for the last couple of years, got more and more involved. And then I took a trip to Africa and met a lot of the women who are doing this on the ground work. And it's just mind blowing the kinds of things they face and the work that they're doing. And it evolved from there. There's so many organizations out there, you know, and they all need support, you know. I mean, there's, you know, there's so many that are worthy of support. I also, you know, there's just, I could tell a lot of stories about that, but I think that's just always been my natural desire, is to, how can I contribute with my life? What can I do? What more can I do for this world? I think that was just part of how I was brought up, from my parents and from the culture and the time, the age that I grew up. So that's always been really important to me. And when you speak of music and, you know, 20, 30 years ago, I mean, forget it. Even by the time I was in my late 20s, it was too late. It felt certainly too late for me. You know, at that time, it was like, if you didn't have a record deal or you weren't picked up by, you know, some artist development deal or something, then that was it. You didn't really have a chance.
Yes.
You know, so when streaming came along and everything became more available to get your music out there as an independent artist, it's kind of, I mean, there are wonderful things about it, but it's also, it's not a way that artists can support themselves through streaming at all. So in a way we've advanced, in a way we haven't. Same thing with women's rights, you know, in a way we've advanced, in a way we haven't. It's like, we've come, you know, we've made some progress, but we're really far from a place of empowerment for artists as well as for women. So yeah, the way that seemed most aligned for me at this time was to do the Kickstarter. And I really appreciate your saying that, because it's true that artists really do need support. Independent artists really do need patrons. I mean,
Exactly.
you know, it's otherwise, you know, you're working and pouring yourselves into your time, your energy, money, your love, and everything. And through the streaming services, you get very, very, very little. You know, I have close to 1 million streams or something of my music, and I've made practically nothing.
You get pennies on it. Yes, I totally understand that. Most people don't. I have a brother who's a music producer, and I have a son who writes lyrics. And you know, he writes because it's important to him. He says if he can when he gets it out there and somebody else hears it, that's fine. But he says he does it for him. It's not it's not his 9 to 5 job. But he said one of these days he'd like one of them just to hit a button a little bit so that people would say, hey, I like that song. But he also knows that if you really want to get it out there, you have to spend the money to get it out there, or you have to raise the money. And that makes you, being an artist, also a business person, and you know, a designer, and everything rolled into one.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. That's for sure. But I think, you know, first and foremost, yes, absolutely, you do it because you can't not do it, because you have, it's some kind of a calling, a mission. It's something you need to say. And in my case, for a lot of the music that I wrote, it was really healing for me to write it and get it out. And some of the songs I didn't even honestly think that I would ever put out into the world. They were written really for my own healing, or they were things that came through. And when I shared them in a songwriting circle that I was in, the other women were like, you're going to put this out there, right? You know, like, this is really powerful. You got to get this one out there. And again, through the support of women, you know, the empowerment, the encouragement, it's like, okay, I guess I will. And several songs on the album would not have seen the light of day if I was left to my own devices, I'm sure.
I totally understand that. My son has a song right now that somebody wants to pick up for an independent movie, and he just said, absolutely, you know. And he called me and he goes, and you know, I'm not getting a penny for it, but it's my words, my music.
Beautiful.
You know, and I'm excited because it's something that he's wanted to get out there.
That's amazing. Congratulations to him. That must feel so good. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more. Soul Alive is debuting this year. Has it debuted officially yet, or
it's coming out on streaming services on 8/8? And so it will be everywhere on 8/8. And I just had like a release concert and a kickoff for my Kickstarter to raise the final funds now. So, yeah.
So if we keep following you, we will know on 8/8 that it's alive and well, and we can all hear it.
Yes, absolutely. And right now I have, you know, I also work with clients one-on-one and do different kinds of healing sessions where I use my voice and sound and music, coupled with the study. I've studied human design and gene keys, which I'm not going to go into the whole story of what that is, but it's basically a way of understanding the self. It relates a little bit to astrology, but it has other things that come into play as well. It's a little bit more layered than that. And it's a really beautiful tool that's helped me so much in my life, helped me not only understand myself, but understand my children, my husband. And I use that with clients together with music and help people to really embody their gifts in a way that they might not be seeing certain things that they may not be seeing. And it also has a lot to do with frequency shifting, because they're in the gene keys in particular, it deals with different frequencies, the shadow frequency, the gift frequency, and then the highest expression of our gifts. And a lot of people operate from different shadows without realizing it. It's the kind of thing where when you have a discussion about that, a lot of it makes sense, because it is who you are. They'll think it'll be things that you know already, like, oh yes, of course. But in deeper examination and contemplation, you see how things have been blocking you, preventing you maybe from expressing your full voice or your gifts in whatever way. So I work with that. And then I use my voice as well, an intuitive way to help people really embody the information, so it doesn't just sit in their head and they don't come away with like, oh, okay, some notes or, information. Right. And it's more of a felt experience and a frequency kind of a shift. So I really love doing those sessions. And one of the ways to work with me now is through my Kickstarter. I have a lot of really unique one-on-one opportunities that are on there. So
I love that.
I'm excited about that.
In an earlier show that I did today, one of the things we were talking about is how coaches like yourself, like myself, we do it because, number one, it makes us better people. Not that we are, total experts on anybody else's life, because we're not. But when we're sharing, when we're finding the tools that will help each other, I know I walk away from a session and I always say to myself, I didn't think about that before. I've got to add that to my toolbox. And I think it's important for those who are listening, because I get this question all the time, why do you think you should be doing what you do? I do it because I need to do it. And it sounds like that's what you're doing with your music and with your sessions. You need to do this. And in doing it, you're empowering not only other women, but you're empowering yourself. And
yes.
If we don't empower ourselves, nobody's going to empower us. We have to find it from inside. So I am very grateful for this conversation. How can people find you if they want to link up with you and have a session with you?
Well, through my website, it's probably the easiest way, jenniferharpermusic.com. And on there, you can connect to different kinds of sessions, but you can also connect to the Kickstarter is on there. You can also connect to my music. And I believe you can connect to my Instagram on there. My Instagram is I am Jennifer Harper.
Well, we'll get all that in the show notes, because I think that's really, really important. And I'm looking forward to August 8th, although I don't want to see the summer go by too quickly.
Yeah. I hear you.
We haven't had summer here in Cleveland yet. I mean, I'm just waiting for it to get warm and stop raining. But August 8th, Soul Alive will be available. And I think at least every woman needs to listen to it.
What a beautiful thought. And I'll take that and put that out to the universe.
Thank you, Jennifer. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.